Hi everybody, welcome back. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Melanie Josephine. I am a life coach and an award-winning author, and today I want to talk to you about hard times, just like the title says. Now, as we jump into this video, I want to ask you to please comment down below, what do you do when you're going through a difficult time, or when you're going through hard times? And yeah, I'm just very curious. And then also by the end of the video, I would really love to know what that I shared today was really helpful to you. Also, I want to announce that this is probably going to be the last live stream in 2020, unless I do like maybe I do one more spontaneously or something like this. But yes, the live streams will come back, but this will probably be the last one for 2020 because I have had so much work lately and I just need to take a break. So basically it's kind of tied to the topic that we are talking about today. A lot of people are facing hard times at the moment, or just emotional downs, depressive phases. Lots and lots of things are happening in this world right now. And yeah, so today I'm going to share what I do when I feel down or when I'm going through a hard time. I want to start with the one thing that has become my go-to, especially now that we are in lockdown number 2. I've kind of come up with my own strategies on how to deal with this. So whenever I feel that I'm feeling low, or that something's coming on, that this is a difficult time for me, I can feel it and I am listening to my inner guide, and I immediately put myself on a schedule of daily walks, daily meditation, and daily phone calls. Now, depending on how bad I feel, like if I feel really bad, I put myself on all 3. If I only feel medium or just a little bit bad and I just need a little uplift, just one walk a day might be enough as well. It may not need all 3 of them, or maybe just talking to a friend every other day or every 3rd day, but just making sure that I don't go long stretches being on my own, not talking to anybody, not getting any fresh air, or not connecting to myself, which is basically what I'm doing when I meditate. So yeah, so this is my go-to, and when I feel low energy coming on, I immediately put myself on that schedule from starting immediately or the next day, basically. And then the other thing I wanted to share before I go into my list, which I have put in my monthly review book, I just want to share something that came to my mind this afternoon, and that is that sometimes what I just said, I put myself on that schedule. Maybe you don't have time for that schedule, or maybe your situation is different. But when you're in that state of not feeling too good for whatever reason, just ask yourself, how can I support myself best? And then the reasons that you can do will come up. For example, if you are starting to feel low, or if you're starting to feel exhausted, let's say you've also been working a lot just like me, ask yourself, what can I cut from my schedule so that I can recover more, I can give more time to myself? And one of the things that we can probably all cut, with not much energy lost, but because we are also addicted, it's so difficult, is actually social media, not being on our phone so much. But when we are really low and our energy is down, at least I'd be really curious if you have the same experience as me. But for me, I can really feel a difference if I step away from my phone for a day or two, or I only allow myself to look at the phone, just a little bit, but not a lot. I wrote down clear distractions and take a social media break, because it does really make a difference. And even, for example, last night, instead of watching Netflix, I actually also decided to just not watch anything, even though this might sound extremely boring. And I know that just leaning back and watching something is relaxing to a degree. But if you are feeling very exhausted, then watching something is still processing something, processing what you're watching. And if you watch nothing, then the things that you really need to process that are still in the back of your mind, those things will come up and they will process. But if you watch something or you're constantly on your phone, then that's basically a distraction, and you're putting that onto all of the other things that are going on in your mind that are not fully processed yet. And I think a very good example is last year when I went to the meditation retreat, the 10-day silent retreat. I mean, you don't have to do that, and right now you can't do it either. However, that was very, very interesting, because suddenly everything started to make so much sense. Everything became so much clearer. I could literally see my life in a timeline. I could release things that have been stored in my body for ages. Basically, once all the distractions were taken away, I could really, really deal with what was going on within myself. And to a degree, I did feel some boredom, and I'm sure a lot of the other people who were there did too. And of course, there were days where I asked myself, why did I come here? But again, I'm not suggesting that you have to go to a 10-day silent retreat, but it's just a very good example that when you need a break, or when you just need to find clarity for yourself, or you just want to ground yourself, then it is really, really good to step away from social media. As I'm mentioning the word grounding, I also want to suggest, and I am going to link this down below tomorrow when this live stream is processed, a video that is all about grounding. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it is basically all about that we have lost touch with nature, that we have lost touch with Mother Earth, and that the video is mainly about how when you put your feet to actual grass, you ground yourself, and that it does something positive in your body. You really must watch the movie. I can't explain it too well. But I think even if you don't believe that in particular, even before watching that video, when I go to the ocean, I mean, unless it's winter, I always take off my shoes and I get into the water. I mean, just with my feet mostly, unless it's summer. But I didn't know that actually what I'm doing is I'm grounding myself. I am coming closer to the earth, and I am simply connecting with nature, which is something that has been more and more and more lost in these days. And even though this video is not about that, but I also really want to recommend you watch the newest David Attenborough movie. I can't remember what it's called, a Life on This Planet or something like this, because it really, really makes you realize, how much we have lost touch with, not just lost touch with nature, but how we are almost working against it as if it's our enemy, and how we are not doing ourselves any favor. So if you haven't watched that movie, definitely go watch that. It's on Netflix. I am no, before I go into my list here, I also want to say, because it doesn't say that on here, that journaling and scripting, but mainly journaling actually, has helped me tremendously when I'm going through a tough time. Even if I don't go through a tough time, let's just say I just have one bad day, or I need something that I'm not sure about, I don't have clarity. I have actually dedicated another one of my 1,000 notebooks to journaling, because I used to think that this doesn't do anything, but the truth is, it is a free therapist. Buying yourself a notebook and just writing in it whenever you need to clear out your thoughts, and just see what you write, see your thoughts on paper. I almost always find clarity doing that. I mean, I think I could actually say always. I say almost always is because sometimes I find clarity in one sitting. Sometimes I need a couple of sittings to find clarity through my writing. But I would say over time, depending on what it is that I need clarity over, or if I feel overwhelmed, like any sort of negative emotion that you have, I mean, it is always coming from a thought, because our thoughts create our feelings, and then our feelings create our actions, and then our thoughts always end up in our results. So when you can see what you're thinking, and you can just get so much more clarity from that point. Actually, I'm going to take a quick look on my notes here. I also wrote that if you're going through like a rut or something more serious, definitely also consider coaching or therapy, because there is just zero shame in getting help. Actually, I think that it's just so much better to get help rather than the opposite, not get help and just eat it all up. Like, I mean, either literally, like, because some people do eat a lot of food when they're going through something, but just generally speaking, when you work with a therapist or a coach, those they are different. But I don't want to get into this in this live stream, because that's not what the live stream is about. But you will learn techniques how to deal with situations better, and then at the end of the day, you might not need them. I mean, if you still need them, it doesn't matter, because it's not a bad thing to have support. It's a really good thing, as I already mentioned. But the reason I'm saying that is also because my coaching program that I'm in, it's coming up to a year now. I started in January. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because now, doing it for a whole year, I can clearly see how I am way more capable to coach myself, because I've been coached so much, and because I've learned these tools, and therefore now I'm much more capable to use them and to resolve my own problems much quicker. But that was just a little detour. Also, I recently watched a video by Aaron Dowdy. It was really interesting. It was about, he was talking about how since he's been letting go more, he has been receiving more. And why am I mentioning this in this video where we talk about hard times? I'm talking about this because the technique he's mentioned is very simple, but also very helpful. Basically, you are bringing up any emotion you have around one topic, and then you just consciously decide to let go. Depending on what it is, you might have to do it a couple of times. If there's like any resilience to letting go, or maybe you will be able to let go immediately. But the reason I'm bringing this up is sometimes we hold on to an issue or a challenge more than we need to. And we can only find out if we take a step back, do our journaling, and really ask ourselves what we can do to resolve this. Or sometimes, and especially now that we're spending so much time in our houses and maybe on our own, depending on if you're living with somebody or not. But what I'm getting at is that it's very easy to ruminate, just to have a thought and then another thought and then another thought, and just be completely in your head, because we can't go out as much and see our friends, and I guess be distracted in that way. But to bring up the emotions you have around a topic, and then just allow it to let go. Decide that you want to let this go. Obviously, you need to decide first, is there anything else that I need to do? This is something else I wrote down. Is there an action plan that you can write and then act out? What are the steps? I mean, nowadays, especially since I've been coached so much, I don't hang into ruminating and just overthinking as much as I used to. I really, if there is any challenge, I really ask myself, okay, what's my action plan? And then start to act out on that action plan immediately, rather than procrastinating. I don't know which live stream it was. I think it was a live stream on communication. I talked about that I wanted to have a conversation, like a more sensitive conversation with my mom. And I procrastinated for like 6 to 8 months until I realized that this conversation is never going to be super comfortable. I just need to get it done. And whenever something like this arises now, whether it's a sensitive conversation or anything that needs to be resolved that I want to get done, I just don't sit on it for this long. Because I am just aware that if I do that, then it is taking up energy in my subconscious mind without me knowing. And this is also something that will easier bring me down, which comes back to today's topic. But also, I've decided, now this is only day 1, so maybe I shouldn't announce this, but I've cut back on coffee, and I'm gonna do it for a while, because I've noticed that I'm just, not just that I'm drinking too much, but that I could just feel that it wasn't right for me anymore. So I'm not actually suggesting that you should cut back coffee. What I'm saying is, sometimes you just need to ask your inner guide, is there anything that is in my way? Is there anything that I can do? Anything else how I can support myself? And that was my answer by my inner guide, that it would be good just to cut out coffee for a bit, not forever, but for a bit. And also, I wrote down generally to, I already spoke about that. Generally, what's the cause? What can I actively do to resolve whatever issue it is? And then also compassion for yourself. For whatever situation you're in, not to beat yourself up and to say, oh, you should be dealing with this situation better, or you should, or what a lot of people also do is, well, that person is doing a lot worse than I, so I really shouldn't complain. Well, that doesn't really serve anybody, because comparing your problems with somebody else's problem, it doesn't mean that your problems can't be validated, because whatever your problems are your problems. And if you just shove them in and you don't deal with them, you don't allow yourself to feel those emotions. By the way, I do have a live stream where I talk about processing emotion, if you want to know more about that topic. But generally speaking, just don't do that to yourself. Rather than looking at somebody who's doing worse and saying to yourself that you should just suck it up because you have it so much better, just have compassion with yourself in whatever situation you're in. Okay, now finally, I'm going to share with you what I wrote in my monthly review book, which is a list that I go back to if I need it. I just open my review book and there it is, because so this is probably more for like well, maybe not a rut, but something that is a bit deeper than just one bad day. I wrote down that on day one, I allow myself to be sad, which is basically what we just talked about, how important it is to have compassion with yourself and just allow yourself to be sad. I want to mention this because maybe this applies to you as well. And I had a coaching session on this. I used to tell myself, and I wasn't aware until this session, that I would say to myself that it's just not okay to be sad for more than 1 hour. And I wasn't aware of the thought until the coaching. And then I realized that doesn't make any sense, because what would happen would be like, I would allow myself to be sad for an hour, but if I would still be sad after that, and sometimes we just are, then I would layer stuff on me, like more negative thinking, like, oh, now the hour's passed, you're still sad, that's wrong, you shouldn't still be sad. What I've learned in the coaching, I don't know if I actually follow this through always, but what they say is that you should just allow yourself to feel sad however long it takes, and that you can still be effective and efficient at your job even when you're processing emotion, if you stop putting those extra layers on it that I've just talked about. I agree with that to a degree. What I do is that, well, basically that I allow myself that, but then I look at the problem and I kind of evaluate how much time I think I should need, but I give myself much more time than in the past, obviously more than an hour. And then I would, depending on what it is, I would maybe say, okay, if it's only something minor, I would say, okay, I allow myself to be sad for the whole day today, but tomorrow is a new day, and when I wake up, I will feel amazing. Yet again, the words that we tell ourselves are really, really important, because our brain responds to what we tell it. And so if you tell yourself the night before that the next day will be amazing, then there's a much bigger chance that it will be, as if you would say this is just going to be horrible for a really long time. Or if it's something else, I might allow myself a couple of days or a week, and then I would say to myself, okay, but now I'm going to do things that really support myself, or I'm going to think things that really support myself. So, but that's the first step, just to allow yourself to be sad. I also wrote down, I eat whatever I want. I sleep if I want to. And I will say to myself that on day 2, I'll feel a little bit better. Then on day 2, I wrote down, I'm still not great. Well, I guess it depends, what was the issue, what's going on. But let's say I'm still not feeling great. Then I said, but I know that each day from now will get a little bit better. And that's really true, especially, I've mentioned this I can't remember in what video, but especially since I've been writing in this book every single day at nighttime. It's called One Line a Day, and it's a 5-year journal. We all know that life is ups and downs, life is 50-50, but I found for myself that ever since I've been writing in that journal, I can see that more clearly. I can really believe that. Before, it was just like when I felt really, really bad, I would simply not sometimes just I would not really see, well, when do I get out of this? When is this over? Is this ever going to be over? But this book, this journal, has made me realize that most of the time, these feelings, these phases pass actually quicker than what they feel like in the moment. And also, this is a very big piece of advice that I've learned over time, is that the more that you allow these feelings in that moment, the quicker you actually pass through it. Maybe if you allow it all, it'll feel really awful, but you'll pass through it quicker. just a very quick side note. I don't know if I've actually ever mentioned this anywhere, I can't remember, but I used to, like, my first breakup, I don't know if it was my first or one of my first breakups, it took me forever to process it because I didn't want to allow myself to process it, and I kept ruminating, and it took me like a year to get over it. And I know, depending on situation, sometimes breakups are difficult to process. I don't want to say that they're not, but if you really say to yourself, bring it on, the worst that can happen is a feeling, I can get through this, and you really, really support yourself, you go through the stages, you allow, and then slowly you go through the stages of getting better, you'll get better quicker than if you're trying to just shove things under the carpet and you keep telling yourself that you shouldn't feel this way. Okay, let's continue. I wrote down, when thoughts are spiraling, I sit and write models. Models is basically what I've already explained earlier, is that I write down a thought and then I look at what feeling is created by that thought, what action do I take from there, and what result is created. Why am I doing this? It's basically to create awareness of what am I creating with my thoughts, and do I want to create this? It's just to gain awareness. I think at that point I didn't write it here, but actually on any day, journaling is good. Like whenever I go through a difficult time, like a longer stretch, I would say during that stretch, journaling every single day. Then I wrote, on day 3, I think of what I can do for others. Because, you know, when you do something for others, you actually start feeling good yourself as well. I wrote down, how can I help? Can I bake a cake? Can I write somebody a card? I recently wrote a couple of cards to friends, and I made it a card for a bad day. So I wrote on the card, I wrote the card, then I put it into an envelope, and then I also wrote down, only to open on a bad day, not now. And so that's something that actually I realized once I did that, I felt really, really good doing these things for others. So that's also a really good idea. But also come up with your own list of what you want to do for yourself. A really, really good idea. I actually haven't done that myself yet, but maybe I should. I think this is really cool. To write a card or a letter like that to yourself. Like write a letter to yourself for a bad day, put it in an envelope, close it, put it somewhere where you know you'll find it when you have a bad day. And there you go. Or watch my self-love live stream. I talk a lot about, how you can build more self-love for yourself. Also, taking yourself out on a date. This is also something really, really good that you can do when you want to feel better. Take yourself out on a date. I wrote, this is very specific, but maybe you want to know. I do a meditation that is called Turning Your Love Inward, and it's a Dr. Joe meditation. For some reason, it's just a 20-minute meditation, but it's been really, really helpful in bad times. And as the name suggests, turning your love inward, it's all about giving that love to yourself. Then I wrote running. These days I go more for like walks, but any sort of exercise is good. And then this is actually very good as well. This is from the book that I'm currently reading by Eckhart Tolle. And the question is there a problem right now? Because most of our problems come from our past, like thinking about our past and then also thinking about the future. But if you are where you are in this moment right now, ask yourself, is there actually a problem right now? And if there is not, then allow yourself to really just breathe, like what we said before, bring the emotions up, release, just release, and maybe read Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, or A New Earth. That's what I'm reading right now, A New Earth. This is the last thing I want to share, but it's been really helpful. I wrote down that if I have a really bad time. And you know, when we have a bad time, we are usually not very good to ourselves. We like beat ourselves up in our own mind. In that time, I say to myself constantly, I have to be good to myself. This might sound just like a tiny sentence, but it's been really, really helpful for me. So maybe try it out. So when you are feeling down, just say to yourself, I have to be good to myself all day. But then also be good to yourself, like do nice things for yourself, come up with creative things that could be helpful, or come up with a strategy like I shared in the beginning. Yeah, so that's basically it. If you haven't yet, please comment down below what was most helpful to you, or what you do when you feel down. If you like this live stream, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you're interested in self-growth and relationships and all the good stuff. And I will see you very soon. I'm sending you so much love from London, and bye.